Hello, and welcome back to the Steve and Mark Discuss podcast. In a change to normal programming, I'll be raising a subject and asking Steve to give me a response to it. This came up in a discussion I had with someone during the week in my professional life, and it's something that's quite close to what I sometimes have been thinking about or have been thinking about. And that is, what is the purpose of education and what constitutes a good education? Um, when we send our young people to school, what do we expect from the schools? Um, it, my belief and what I've been looking at is yes, I want them to learn the language, which I think is vital, or have a better understanding of the language, of a language, their own language, and hopefully another one, if that's possible. Um, Obviously, maths, or mathematics, depending on where you come from or what you want to hear, and the way you want to pronounce it. um, I think is important, at least a overall basic grasp. I'm not talking about high level maths here. Yeah. Another thing is, um, and I've been looking at this, and it's how you do interact in a society with each other. If you consider that a school and your class and everything else is a community, a micro community. Yeah. Um, So, as well as the academic side of it and subjects I've just mentioned, and I'll mention some more in a minute, which I think are quite important, it's also the ability to interact with other people. If you like, kids should be learning that they're going to be people that like them, people that dislike them, how you react to both. You're going to form your own friendships. You're learning how to argue effectively with people, sometimes how to debate. And I know this is putting a lot on young people, and I'm not expecting the teachers to do everything here. Now, the interesting thing about this is there is an attitude sometimes of some guardians, parents. I know it's an easy thing to say, of they just drop their kids at the school gate or just send them off to school, and that's it. They expect the school to do everything. Um, Whereas a young person's education shouldn't only be left to school teachers. They many, and I would say a majority of school teachers are excellent anywhere I've been, and that cannot be denied. It is a difficult job. Since I've been teaching, I now realise it's not as easy as just showing up and talking for an hour or an hour and a half. You do actually have to do quite a lot of preparation, which quite shocked me. Okay, you can do things and you can repeat the process, but you've also got to be engaging, have empathy for your students. Um, I mean, yeah, and I do think that the teachers do have a very, very difficult job to do this. You have to be a role model to a certain point if you're a school teacher. But again, they can't be the total role model. I do believe that there has to be a partnership, even an unofficial one, between the school and the parents. Um, we all know that our kids come home sometimes with homework. I've heard about somebody who's got a PhD in maths, didn't have a clue what the maths their kids were learning. He laughed about it, he wasn't an idiot. Um, but yeah, it is to me that is what a school should be. There should also be supporting subjects taught, and these should be history of the country you're in, um, but it should be objective as well. It shouldn't be one-sided. It shouldn't be telling you how bad your country is. It should also be highlighting positives in your country's history, development. Okay, say the mistakes that were made, highlight them so they don't get made again. Round the kids off, not to be divisive, to move forward together. And I know we're living in a world now where you have people of different origins together. Again, that should be encouraged. They should be taught the country they're in, and maybe also taught things that are outside. the country, or encouraged to look at their own history. Maybe teachers do that. Um, my daughter actually came home with some homework. She did a test all about the Second World War. This is in Brazil. She actually scored quite highly, probably because of some of my interest behind me in the books. She didn't read the books, but she did ask my opinions when she was studying and feelings about things. So, but again, she enjoyed learning about it. It gave her a perspective on the world, why the world is today, and she talks about it. Again, well done to the teacher that did this, got the children engaged. I've read some of the notes, just not from a textbook, actually did their own thing as well. So again, history is important. I'm always a bit suspicious about other subjects that come in. This is sociology. Again, that can be a subject to me that can be of interest, but also when you read some sociology books, it can be manipulated. It doesn't bear real world experience. It's theoretical. Um, it's an interesting subject. I mean, yeah, you read some philosophers. Um, Other subjects, yeah, I see. I mean, yeah, as a Christian, I think religion is important in schools, in Christian faith schools. Um, but again, this gets replaced with philosophy in outside schools. Um, I do think it's important to have some sort of faith-based education, and I don't just mean Christianity. Maybe we're at the stage now, if you've gone to a non-faith school, to understand what Christianity is, to understand what Islam is, to understand what Buddhism is. Yeah, I have an understanding of other people. Okay, it's broad and bash. I'm using these as examples. I know the list could be endless. That's the problem with this. Yeah, maybe find some common core things with faith and religion, spiritual things, or historical things, and teach what they have as a commonality, as opposed to a division. Okay, with that, so over to Steve. What do you think constitutes a good
Yep.
religion?
Okay, here
Sorry,
we
a
go.
good, yeah.
We need to look at why schools were invented, right? And in the old days, the
Mm-hmm.
old days, it was more based. The education was more based on reading, writing, and arithmetic. Why? Because in the turn of the century, when we were getting close, when we were into the Industrial Revolution, they needed educated people to do the jobs because everything was new. Everything, was new. What was being done in the commercial aspect, and basically, it was to prove that you could capture information,
Mm-hmm.
understand the information, and repeat the information. That's it. That's what uh, we learn about geography now these days.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as time moved on, they started popping in other subjects. History, geography, biology,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things that once again you had to learn
Mm-hmm.
to capture the information and repeat the information when you did your exams, a bit like what your daughter did,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And that is just to prove to the world that
Mm-hmm.
you are capable of doing exactly that. You
Mm-hmm.
know, is um, absorbing information, understanding it, and then uh, reproducing it.
Mm-hmm.
I have to admit that in terms of my education, most of what I've learned, I learned outside of school
Mm-hmm.
after I left school. You know, I speak five
Mm-hmm.
different languages. I wouldn't say all fluently,
Mm-hmm.
but I can get by. Fine. The English, which is my native tongue,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I learned at school, and the other four, I learnt through immersion, going to the countries where they spoke those languages. In terms, I think that from when I was a kid,
Mm.
what I learnt at school is very much going to be redundant these days because the technology has changed,
Mm.
the world has changed,
Mm.
and even now in Parliament in the UK, they're wanting educational courses for the service industry. You know, they wanted to. When I was at school, when you came to the 5th year,
Mm.
for those that weren't academically
Mm.
or that were academically challenged,
Yeah.
they had the chance of doing mechanics
Yeah.
in the 5th year.
Mm.
You know, mechanics, woodwork, metalwork,
Mm.
these sort of things, to keep them in put
Yeah.
bricklaying.
Learn a trade. Yeah.
That's right, so that when they left school,
Mm.
they could be useful.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
think also that yeah, as you say, you know, um, rhetoric is an important thing to learn
Mm.
at school,
Mm.
but only if you are only at a certain age. So we did these debates
Mm.
like in the 5th year, 6th year.
Yeah.
I stayed on an extra year in
Mm.
school because I was a boffin, and we did debates, school
Yeah.
debates, you know, and
Yeah.
things like that. But in terms of these days,
Yeah.
where a lot of it is philosophy,
Mm.
and unfortunately, if you don't agree with what the philosophy teacher is saying,
Mm.
you know, basically they just you don't get very high marks,
Mm.
you know, and I think that at a certain degree it's taken away your ability
Mm.
to reason
Yeah.
and to come up with your own conclusions.
Yeah.
If that's what the idea of having philosophy is, uh, that you should be able to reason
Mm.
and come to your own conclusions.
Mm.
If it doesn't have that,
Mm.
then it becomes indoctrination,
Yeah.
and that's something else. That's something else.
Yeah.
Should we indoctrinate the children?
Yeah.
A certain degree, like I said, you know, in the initial stages
Mm.
of secondary education, of education in general,
Mm.
it was reading, writing, and
Yeah.
arithmetic,
Yeah.
and that to a certain degree is indoctrination.
Well, it has to
You know,
be.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
you have to do that. You
Yeah.
have to do that.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I said to my daughter, yeah, feel free to question anything I say if you don't agree with me, and I'll explain it. And I do say to her, if you can't explain it and believe it yourself, there must be something wrong. And I mean,
Right.
not just the teacher said it or my father said it or something. I'd explain it to her. I mean, yeah, she'll find out eventually. I'm not gonna, yeah, hopefully, yeah, not going to force any issues. Um, in fairness to her, she's turned away from Instagram and social media and doesn't look for information there. Um, she, yeah, she's aware of what's going on in the world a little bit, but she tries to stay away from it. She says it's a bit depressing, and I can't blame her for that. She's
Mhm.
concentrating on passing her exams that are in front of her at the moment, and I respect her for
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's like you say, and I think I was making the point with the parents and others. That's it. Say, or for you, the parents, the family around them, is where some education happens. As you say, when we're the
I
other
think.
side of 50, we should be
Yeah,
experienced enough in life to be able to use our knowledge. Yeah.
yeah. I think um, when my sister was at school,
Mm.
and I'm gonna be people are gonna shout at me for saying this,
Mm.
but she did domestic education,
Yeah.
which was learning to cook,
Yeah.
learning to do housekeeping, all these things. And I think once the women's lib thing came in,
Mm.
that to a certain degree, the role of male and female
Mm.
was lost a little bit.
Yeah.
Was lost a little bit. We were talking about this the other day about in the 50s and 60s. It used to be that the man used to go to work and come home,
Yeah.
and his wife would be there and the children would be there. But these days, it's both parents working. So the society is very much different, and
Yeah.
the roles are mixed, very much mixed. And so there's a great deal of difficulty in parenting,
Mm.
smaller children,
Yeah. I mean,
because either people don't have time, or they don't have the knowledge,
yeah.
or
Yeah. I mean,
and so the kids are being turned out into the wilderness.
yeah. I mean, well, probably not so much now, but yeah, certainly my generation, Gen X, were known as the latchdoor kids because that's when both parents started to work, came into being. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying in all cases. My childhood was reasonably okay, but my at some point, both my parents worked, so I used to come home from school, let myself in. Didn't cook. There might be something prepared already. I come from the age of microwaves, so yeah. There's,
Well, there you go. Just that.
Yeah.
You think if you're
yeah,
a boy or a girl,
yeah,
how can you show somebody to do something
yeah,
that you probably can't do yourself?
yeah. It's yeah. I mean, this is. I mean, what is good parenting? And again, it's. Yeah. I mean, we're getting to a different subject here. I'd like to think that, well, both of us seem to have done a reasonably good job. It's given that you only get one chance at it. Yeah.
If I did a good job, I don't know, but I did what I could.
Well,
So there you
well,
go.
yeah. Well, that's it. Time will tell. But yeah, I think from what I've seen of one of your kids, yeah, I think you've done okay. But it's always going to be the big question, and they're our legacy. They'll learn the good and bad off us as well, which is the way it's always happened. Yeah, there'll be things that are probably we always want to be a different parent from our parents. No disrespect to the parents, yeah, but we have different times. But yeah, core things are it's care, it's attention. Yes, we are living in a different age where there's probably an increase in single parent families. Hopefully, fathers are not totally absent, or mothers even sometimes are totally absent out of children's lives, because I do think the biological is important. That's not to say that some extended or additional people come in and don't do a good job as well. And fair play to them. And I've met a few, and you've got to respect that as well. It's still a stable environment. But yeah, we're talking into something else there. But yeah, it's from education. But again, it's all part of it. Child goes home, gets encouraged to study, hopefully, gets the, praise when the marks are good, the questions when the marks aren't so good. Yeah. Um, yeah. And, not go, hopefully parents don't go up to schools and shout at school teachers because it's not always their fault. If a whole class starts failing, then you've got to begin to wonder. But again, I think a majority of teachers do a good job. It's like I said, and it's just as you said, the function of schools is probably changing as well.
Look, you just need to look at the United States.
Hmm.
What a drag queen has got to do with education, I'm not sure.
Hmm.
However, schools are hiring drag queens to do drag shows in schools.
Well, in fairness, in the U,
Where is that? Where is that part of the education of a youngster?
yeah, okay, in the UK we had it as entertainment on TV, or we had pantomimes with drag artists doing
Yeah,
it.
but
So
there's a difference between being a dame in pantomime
yeah, I know
and
it's
being a sleazy using whips and
yeah. Well, it hasn't. It
and
only had
strap on apparatus.
yeah. Well, it hasn't only happened in the US. So in the UK as well.
Yeah, well, I speak about education in general.
Yeah, but it's a yeah, we got to
It's
scratch our head.
almost it's almost like the schools just throwing subjects
Yeah,
into the curriculum
yeah, yeah.
just for the sake of doing it, you know,
I mean, this,
without without any
yeah,
objective
yeah. I mean,
purpose.
this is what I'm saying, and this is my original argument. Go to school, the 3 R's, the 3 R's as we
Yeah,
used to call it: reading, writing, arithmetic. Yeah, which doesn't really work in Portuguese if you try and explain it to that. Um, but it is a and that's it. And then how to, if you like, integrate into society. Now I've seen it that they've had teachers who had a fixed thing to talk about different issues in society, um, which is sometimes at odds with maybe what the parents and the grandparents, and you've got to bring grandparents into this, believe as well. And it's almost conflictual. Yeah, and that gets interesting. I've not seen that much in Brazil. Funny enough, I've seen it in the UK, not in Brazil, and I know it's happened in the US. So, which is, yeah, which is interesting. Um,
grandparents
yeah,
grandparents are always going to say it wasn't like it was when I was a kid.
well, we do. Well, yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
grandparents are always going to say that the school days are the best days of your life. I know that
Mm.
because even parents would say that.
Yeah,
And I know that because when I left school, around about 4 or 5 years after I left school,
mm.
I was talking to some school kids and I said, take advantage because the school days
Yeah. So
are the best
yeah,
days of your life.
yeah,
And their reaction to me was the same reaction that I gave to an
yeah,
older person
yeah,
when they told me that the school days are the best days of your life.
yeah, yeah.
You
All
know,
you've got to worry about,
which,
yeah, yeah, we've got to worry about at school is showing up every day, passing a few exams. The real exams in life happen when you leave school. You've got to get a job. You might have a family, responsibilities, pay for a house or living or rent. Else you're on the street, get the food. That's the real test in life. The school should be preparing you for that as well. Not
well, like I said,
mm,
that's what they used to do.